death wish. Not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots, hitting bricks. We testing the kids.
Welcome to Deep Thrones. This is a special episode, a season 1 look back.
A season 1 look back. I'm so excited to look back on season 1.
You know, it was maybe not what everyone expected it for it to be, but I loved it.
It definitely had some mixed reviews online, but also everything's mixed online. Like, everyone just wants to complain.
That's true.
But we had some discussions, some heated discussions, I would say, ourselves about season 1.
Yeah, mainly around like the time jumping and
They did what they had to do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they had to do a lot of time jumping and a lot of sort of cutting down, which it happens. Season 2 is 8 episodes, so I'm sure there'll be more cuts that people will be upset about, but that's just the world we're living in the media world we're living in, where it's not really a Westeros showrunner's decision. I think a lot of it comes from the top.
I can definitely see that.
Joe Biden.
Well, let us know your thoughts on season 1. We're going to dive in. This one will probably be a little bit shorter than our regular length.
Yeah, we got 2 little shorties coming your way the next couple of weeks, folks. And then we're going to be on to House of the Dragon season 2.
And we're starting the real deal.
That's when the episodes are going to be long. We're going to be screaming at each other, arguing greens versus blacks. But this is just a look back to season 1. And it starts with the heirs of the dragon. That was episode 1.
Yeah, remind me, who's actually the rightful heir of the dragon?
Daemon Targaryen.
Well,
At this point,
okay.
At season 1, episode 1,
right.
Because he has no sons. And according to what was I supposed to say, Rhaenyra?
You were supposed to say Rhaenyra,
Well,
but that's okay.
Aegon the second of his name. But yeah, so Daemon Targaryen, of course, at this point is heir to Viserys' throne. Viserys' wife, though, Emma, is pregnant with a they believe to be a son. They don't really have a way of knowing back then, unless the doctor just really, gets in there. But Rhaenyra is his only surviving child. A lot of bad labors at this point.
Yeah, and this really started the show off hot. People were kind of torn apart on how episode 1 went, with that kind of gruesome birthing scene, and then like juxtaposed with the tourney in King's Landing.
Yeah, it was a great episode. I really the first episode for me is like one of the strongest of the entire season.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
sentiment.
it starts off like you get to see how close Rhaenyra and Alicent are. You get to see Daemon being a bit of a hothead, but long story short, Emma gives birth. But it goes wrong. She dies in the labors, I should say. The baby also dies. It was a boy, and Viserys is now stuck with Daemon as his heir. But Otto Hightower and a lot of the small council sort of says to Viserys, like, Daemon can't be your heir. He's a lunatic.
Someone brought up to me the other day that there's a conspiracy theory that Otto told the maester or whoever the doctor was that was delivering the baby that if it was a boy, to
Whoa, I love that.
And when you look back at the scene, like the baby was like crying and like loud when it first came out, and then the maester took it off to the side off screen.
Whoa.
And then it quieted it down.
You've been talking to Sir Alex of InfoWars, haven't you? You've been listening to him.
Just open your eyes, people.
Just stay woke.
Yeah.
No, that is interesting.
Otto
has been very schemy. I wouldn't put it past him, to be honest.
He's slippery. And then also in that episode, Daemon was named commander of the City Watch.
Oh, great scene, too. Great introduction to them.
Whipped them into shape.
Yeah.
Also, I will say in that episode, too, which also I thought made it a strong episode, was the intro to Daemon, like when he was sitting on the Iron Throne.
Yes.
Was just like pretty badass in my opinion.
And it's a great, you're not supposed to do that if you're not the king. But he says something like, it'll be mine soon enough. Like he thinks it's coming.
Ned Stark famously hated Jaime Lannister for his entire life.
Literally his entire life, because he sat on that throne.
Yeah.
That was it. But so, essentially what happens is, again, baby dies, wife dies, Viserys is stuck, rocking a hard place. But word gets around from Otto's spies, because Otto, of course, is looking for any crack in the relationship between Daemon and Viserys, that he called young, I think they were going to name him Balon, heir for a day.
Yeah.
And it cuts Viserys to the core.
Mm-hmm.
Great scene where Viserys basically unheirs him. I'm sorry, that's terrible. I don't know. I'm not learning it. But
maybe disinherits.
Yeah, he essentially says, you will now go back to the Vale to your wife. Daemon, of course, doesn't, but he says, go. You're no longer the heir. Naming a new heir. And he has a really tense moment with Rhaenyra where he's like, look at the dragons. What do you see? He's trying to gauge because he's about to name her the heir. He tells her about the Song of Ice and Fire, which, quick non sequitur, if they're building the Aegon's Conquest show, which they say that they are, that's probably going to play into it, too.
Be a tie-in.
Yeah, the Song of Ice and Fire.
And also, I mean, with Jacaerys going up to the wall in season 2, there could be a tie-in there as well.
Could be a tie-in as well. And she's named heir. That's episode 1.
Moving on from that, in episode 2, Daemon famously gets a little handsy with the eggs and steals some dragon eggs.
Gets a little handsy with the eggs.
It's a little, and this is Daemon really like being in his punk boy teenage era almost.
Yeah, this is like season 1 to 3 Jon Snow. Like, my father, I'm a bastard, you know? Except Daemon is cooler about it. I think he handles it a better way. Like, he's a cool punk. Like, he's not a poser. He's like a legit punk.
Yeah, and he's not like pouty. He's more just like, I'm doing stuff to annoy people.
Yeah, he's not like wearing like a bunch of Nirvana shirts. Like, he knows their songs, and he's doing the heroin.
He's not getting his ears punched at Claire's.
No. Exactly. Snap bracelets, he's not buying those.
What was the name of that one store? Hot Topic.
Hot Topic.
Daemon.
Yeah.
Actually, Daemon might have shopped at Hot Topic.
And he also would, like, rob, like, novelty cards from Spencer's.
Spencer's? Do those places still exist?
I think Spencer's is still.
All right, well, those are plugs, so pay us.
We love you, Spencer's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he steals the egg. Rhaenyra's pissed because it was the egg that she chose for Balon. Which also, like... And Daemon's doing this whole thing that sort of gets dropped, but it's like... He's saying Myceria is going to be his wife and that she's with child. And, like, Myceria is like, none of it's true. Mm-hmm. Can you also, like, imagine being in a relationship and someone's like, yeah, this is my wife. You'd be like, well, what the fuck? We just started dating, dude.
And Myceria, for those who don't remember, is a.k.a. the White Worm, a courtesan who has a spy network throughout King's Landing. And probably outside.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we'll see her in season 2 probably quite a bit. But so Otto, actually, and I gave him mad props for this, re-listening to our episodes, because to his credit, he's like, Viserys, you can't go to Dragonstone to get the egg. It's too dangerous. Daemon is like without, like mercy, so I'll go. And he takes Kristen Cole, who just defeated Daemon the episode before in the lists. Otto goes. Daemon's like, you're not getting this fucking egg. But then who shows up?
Caraxes shows up. Well, Caraxes shows up first.
Yes, that's right.
And then Rhaenyra flies in with Cyrax and kind of evens the playing field. But there's a great dialogue interchange on that kind of walkway at Dragonstone where they were meeting. So something to go back and look at as you guys are preparing for season 2.
Yeah, and Ryan Condal having them speak Valyrian whenever him and I love that.
Yeah,
very smart, and also Condal is helping right now with Hedge Knight. He said where they're needing it, they're asking me some stuff, and him and George R. R. Martin are also assisting Mattson Tomlin, the writer who's doing Aegon's Conquest.
George isn't finishing those books.
Continuity, no, he's not.
He's in his bag. He's like. He's probably gonna like use ChatGPT to finish Winds of Winter. he's gonna be like, what do I fire? Fuck. But so essentially, they get the egg back. Daemon again is just pissing off Viserys, and that's episode 2. And then moving on from there, it's young Aegon's name day. So Aegon was born. Viserys ended up choosing.
Heir? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Did you say something?
No, I sneezed.
So Viserys, after Emma dies, is on this hunt, or not a hunt, but I guess kind of a
hunt a little bit.
Yeah, like a speed dating trial to figure out who he wants to marry.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra's kind of on a similar thing too, since she's coming of age.
That's a good point.
But Viserys ends up choosing Alicent Hightower.
Much to the chagrin, like Lord Corlys is like fucking joke.
Yeah,
he bounces
because that's a great point to bring up. So Viserys, the Valyrians thought for sure because of their deep ties with the Targaryens that they would be, officially married into the family.
Yep,
and become royalty.
Yep.
And
at the end of The Rogue Prince, after it's decided that he's marrying Alicent, Corlys is at his wit's end. Because also they haven't been listening to him about the triarchy and the stepstones.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Daemon and he's like, hey, me and you both have been disrespected lately. Let's get a little respect back.
So, and we'll dive into that war on the stepstones in a little bit. But Alicent's chosen. She has a son right away.
Beautiful blonde hair, great name,
okay.
Strong claim.
Names Aegon. It's his name day in this next episode, and they have a hunt out in the King's Woods. And Rhaenyra's just like so pissed off, just in general, that Alicent married her dad, who she thought was her friend, and she's still trying to figure out who she likes. And then Kristen Cole's here for her in her most vulnerable moment, which is, a little bit. He's like just slipping in there when she's.
It's just vulnerable. Right place, right time. Sometimes you're just there.
He's not a fan of him, but she ends up killing a boar.
That's cool.
So that was neat.
And also in this episode, Hobart Hightower is putting pressure on Otto. He's like, it's Aegon's second name day. It's right. It only makes sense now that he should be named heir, So like, there's like, the Hightowers have like a lineage of peer pressure on each other. It's amazing. And then also you get introduced to Larys. He's just in every scene. Larys is like in the corner, just like doing one of the like lean-ins, giving a little listen.
So yeah, Larys Strong, also Spy Network connoisseur.
Big feet guy.
Big feet guy. We don't know that yet necessarily, but, but he does have a club foot. His brother, Harwin Strong, also is short-lived on this show, and then his dad as well. Yep. But yeah, there's a bunch of political webs being, spun throughout this entire episode.
Yep.
And then
it ends with the Stepstones.
So as a refresher, the War on the Stepstones were essentially a group in Essos called the Triarchy. That was made of 3 free cities that got together and decided they wanted to lay claim to land in between Westeros and Essos called the Stepstones. There's also pirates involved, but essentially it becomes a matter of national security for the Targaryens who rule Westeros.
Yeah, and their trade, like everything,
Yeah, the trade, national security. It basically controls everything going into Westeros from there, or Essos. So Daemon and Corlys Velaryon decide that they're going to take this on their own, since they're kind of pushed out of the royal court, and
they go a little different from the books, because in the books they sort of we don't really see much of the battle, but the word is they kicked ass. They're struggling. But at the end, they do a little bait and switch on the crab feeder, Cragus Drahar. He falls for it, hook, line, and sinker. They attack Daemon one at a time. Interesting strategy. And then, essentially, though, Corlys, Vaemond, and Laenor show up. And they get in the mix. Laenor, of course, on sea smoke above, and they fucking wipe them out.
Just burning up little crabbies.
Burning up crabby. Oh, my God. A good crab boil? Dude, they were eating good. And then that takes us to episode 4. On the back of that, King of the Narrow Sea.
Yeah. So a little bit more decoration for Daemon. Finally gets his recognition that he's been so desperate for.
Yeah.
And then also, Rhaenyra has a little fling with Kristen Cole, I think, this episode.
And so essentially, Daemon returns. He's like, they name me King of the Narrow Sea. Everyone's in the throne room, like, and Viserys kind of like, you're a king, huh? But then he goes, but I know there's one true king. And he has this great line where he has the crab feeder's like club that he uses to hammer guys to posts, and he throws it to Viserys' feet and goes, add it to the chair, which is great. But yeah, so essentially,
and Viserys welcomes him back at that point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's excited. Daemon immediately shits on it because he's like goes on this rant, and he knows that Rhaenyra has to marry, but Daemon is trying to teach her like, you're fucking royalty. You can do whatever you want, which like is very forward thinking for Daemon, because a lot of people at this time don't share that view for the women. The men whore all they want, like Robert Baratheon, right? Does what he wants. Has a billion bastards, no one cares. Cersei has 3 with her brother, and everyone throws a fit. But so Daemon takes her to a brothel. They're kind of getting it on. Daemon is kind of like, I don't know. He kind of gets cold feet.
Yeah, second guessing.
He gets out of there. Rhaenyra then goes back to the Red Keep, all juiced up, ready to rock. Who's there? But the Queen's Guard, the King's Guard himself, Kristen Cole.
Very opportunistic.
Yeah, and you had issues with this. And you like Rhaenyra, but you said this was she was abusing her position of power.
She did. But that was a different me. Now we're separated into greens and blacks, so kind of have her back on this one. But
yeah. I still, you'll be hearing from me Kristen's representation. I feel bad for Kristen there, but he falls madly in love with her.
Yeah, so much so, and we'll get into this later, but so much so that they end up splitting apart because he wants to basically wife her up.
Yeah, he goes on a rant that doesn't make much sense, but we'll get to that in the next episode. But is that episode 4? We're good on that?
And then Rhaenyra is also betrothed to Laenor in that one?
Yeah, because the word gets around about Daemon. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Otto gets fired.
Oh, yeah.
Viserys fires Otto because he's pushing fucking that Daemon and Rhaenyra did that. And Viserys is pissed in the first place that Otto has any informants following Rhaenyra. And he says, he's like, your views no longer align with the crown. Takes the pin and puts it on Lionel Strong. Good point. We go to episode 5, which is called We Light the Way, The Words of House Hightower.
Pretty solid
of
words.
Old Town.
Pretty solid words.
They're good. Laenor and Rhaenyra, this is their wedding episode. A lot of big players are coming to Westeros. This is also one of the earliest things we saw from one of the first trailers was the Valerians coming into the throne room sort of in lockstep. Yeah. This is the episode where that takes place, which I love.
And throughout, Viserys is just like more and more falling apart, like literally, physically.
Oh, yeah, this dude's sick, guys. He's sick. He's got the vid.
He's getting more and more dead.
He is decaying, like as we see him. Alicent has a really emotional scene with Otto where she's like, I hate that you have to leave. And he's like, and yet you made it possible. Again, we gaslight the way. And he's giving it to her that like, this is one of my favorite scenes. And Rhys Ifans, who plays Otto Hightower, acts his balls off in this scene where he's like, you must prepare Aegon to rule. He's like, because he's saying like, she'll have no choice but to kill your children if her claim comes into question. It's like either cleave to Rhaenyra and beg for mercy, or prepare Aegon to rule. It's a great scene. She's bought in now.
I think that's one of the main catalysts for her and eventually pushing Aegon. But I also think her conversation with Viserys on his deathbed, which we'll get to later, was like the kind of final stamp of approval on that.
Definitely. Rhaenyra and Laenor then get married. Nothing goes wrong at the wedding. It's a great time. Just kidding. Daemon shows up out of nowhere, pisses off the ruler of the Vale because Daemon might have killed his wife back at the Vale.
For no reason. Like, she seemed pretty cool.
I think it like started kind of as an accident, and then he was like, I might as well see to it. But it was weird. It was a weird scene. But she seemed really nice, but he just didn't want to be married anymore.
Yeah.
So I guess annulments weren't around then, but so she's dead. And then Laenor's paramour talks to Kristen. He's like, hey, we're both paramours, so we can sort of like make this work. Kristen doesn't like that, beats him to death. Alicent shows up in a bright green dress, signaling that she's full Hightower. It's all madness.
I mean, yeah, I think one thing that I do want to stop for 1 second there, I think this is kind of when Daemon realizes that his path to the throne is Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
And I think her getting married to Laenor kind of signaled that for him.
Yeah. And that's why he married Laena. Stay close.
Yeah. And then that's also why he was like to his wife on the runestone. You know?
Yeah. So. When she tragically fell. And then like again, like they get married and Viserys is like collapsing. And then we get to episode 6, The Princess and the Queen. We got old Rhaenyra and old Alicent now. And by old, I mean like younger than me and Chris, which is depressing. But yeah, because they each have like 5 20-year-old kids. So we are really old now, essentially.
Yeah, we are. But no, this is kind of where a lot of the, I guess, controversy came in, where people were like, oh, like this is building up so slow, and then now all of a sudden we jump so fast.
Which I get it.
Yeah.
People are fickle, you know.
And these are also kind of like bridge episodes, too.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, they really are. And they like it sucks because they had to do it. But then this season coming up, season 2 being 8 episodes with all that action, it's kind of like, okay, well, now are we about to be like zapped in the face? Curious. We'll see. We'll be there covering it. But so Daemon and Laena are married, and they're living in Essos. Rhaenyra and Laenor are married, and they're having white children. And Laenor, again, maybe we should specify, is not a white person.
Not white. Also with dark hair. Laenor has white hair, and so does Rhaenyra. So yeah, a little problematic.
White skin, dark hair. You know, it's a little problematic. Alicent sees the child. She even has a scene with Viserys in this episode where she's like, once is an accident, 3 times is an insult. Yeah. So very, very obviously resembling Harwin Strong. Yeah.
Who's one of the Kingsguard members.
Yeah. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. They're his children. All of them are. She has no children with Laenor. Again, he is not interested in goose. He prefers duck. So that's one of the references they have in one of the episodes. But I think that's the main gist of this episode, right? Princess and the Queen. Mm-hmm. But I think at the end of it is when Lena has a bad pregnancy and has Vhagar burn her. A lot of tough, difficult pregnancies in this show. So she's dead, which kicks off episode 7, which is Driftmark, which is her funeral.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, I feel like Damon actually mourned and, like, fell in love with Lena.
He did. I think he loved Lena.
Yeah, and so it was interesting to see, like, him being humanized a little bit.
He probably was really annoyed that the wife that he liked killed herself, and the other wife that he hated, he had to go to the Vale and do it. Well, she technically didn't kill her. Well, she did, though. She had Vhagar burn her, but she was going to die in the pregnancy. Yeah, she took the Dragon Rider's way out, which is a heroic way to go. And
it was sad when he had to tell the kids, too.
Yeah, they're very emotional scene. And actually, this episode, Driftmark, like, Corlys is not right. Laenor's definitely not right. Rhaenys, Bela, Rhaena, like, everyone's super sad. Aemond and Aegon, I don't think really care. They don't want to be there, you know? Otto even says to Daemon, he's like, I'm sorry. And Daemon sort of throws shade at him. He's like, no matter how fat the leech grows, it never, like, waits for another meal kind of thing. Just shots fired. Oh, and Otto's Hand of the King again, isn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, he's got the pin. Well, we didn't cover this. Fucking Larys, on behalf of Alicent, burned his brother and dad alive. Lionel Strong, who was the Hand of the King's dead, and Harwin Strong, Rhaenyra's boy toy's dead.
Yeah, Alicent just like hinted at something would be easier if Larys was the Lord of House Strong.
Yeah, and Larys was like, "Oh, say no more, fam."
Yeah, say less.
Larys was like, "Oh, I got a guy for that."
And then Laenor kind of, this is when he starts to Daemon starts to plan getting rid of Laenor so that he can marry Rhaenyra.
And they bang on the beach, and it leads to that. And when they do the voiceover, it sounds like, oh, they're going to fucking kill Laenor.
Yeah.
And they don't. They just kill someone else that no one cares about. And
poor guy, Collateral.
And Laenor then goes east to Essos with Carl, who was his paramour currently, and hopefully lives happily ever after. I wouldn't be shocked. I would not be shocked if he makes an appearance. In a small role to ease Corlys. To ease, to be like, look, we didn't fucking kill him. Because they even hinted, though, that our enemies will be scared at us if they think we're capable of that. But also they need Corlys and Rhaenys on their side. Right, so it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Hod Shrews cut both ways.
Yeah, I wouldn't be... Maybe like in a Raven or like a letter even.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and he's just like, I promise this is me.
Or he says something that maybe only
Laenor
would know.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. And also in Driftmark, not a big deal, but it ends with Aemon loses his fucking eye after he gets Vhagar. And then there's that beautiful fight scene with the knife, Rhaenyra and Alicent saying, like, I want your son's eye now. It's like famous, now they see you as you are. You know, great scene.
And that same dagger that was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the cat's paw dagger that eventually would kill Lord Baelish. But it essentially, we see Otto's hyped because he's like, all right, Alicent now is in it to win it. Also, yeah, Aemon lost an eye, but as they say, one Vhagar is worth 1,000 eyes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, more, for sure.
Yeah.
And then Aemon actually, like, went from being a small, innocent child to just, like, completely cocky, running the world once he got Vhagar.
I think the dragons, I think there's something about it. There's something about that.
You get a little personality.
You get a little personality of the dragon. And this is where the battle lines are drawn. And then we get to the Lord of the Tides, episode 8. Sort of a bridge episode. It's got a lot to do with the fact that Rhaenyra's children are bastards. Vaemond does not want Luke, which is Rhaenyra's second son, to inherit Driftmark. And Corlys is hurt. He took a wound in the Stepstones because the Triarchy is resurgent.
Corlys is hurt. Viserys is essentially dead. He's on his deathbed at this point.
Is it SpongeBob's grandma? Who's the
old Sponge?
Yeah, it's just like a little stick though. What's that thing?
I know who you're talking about. I think SpongeBob's grandma is like a brown sponge. Yeah, I think she's the stick one.
The stick thing. That's what. If you guys know that reference, that's what he looks like.
And then so Alicent's starting to kind of forward think here and plant seeds to Aegon that he could be king at some point.
But he's a bad guy.
And he's awful. He doesn't care. He's whoring. He's gambling.
Of some form of harassment or assault on one of the maids.
Yeah.
You know, so that's obviously terrible. Can't defend that.
She summoned him in and then she like beat him up a little bit.
Alicent slapped him around. She paid off the maid. She gave her like a bag of gold. and was like, by the way, like, we cool? And then she went into his room and beat him up, because also I think that it was known that they'd be taking an audience with the blacks, and she's like, you can't fucking do this shit right now. Not right now!
Uh-huh. And is this the episode, too, where Vaymond is calling out Rhaenyra?
Oh, yeah. This epic scene where Viserys enters the throne room, and he's literally on his deathbed, but he does it to defend Rhaenyra because he knows they're doing the whole bastard thing. Mm-hmm. And Vaymond says, your kids are bastards, she's a whore, my blood belongs on the Driftwood throne. Like, we built Driftmark and High, what's it called?
High Tide.
High Tide. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no, you didn't, dude. Like, Corlys did all that.
Yeah, he didn't do, Vaymond didn't do shit.
If Corlys wants to pass it down to a fucking Samwell Tarly, he gets to, because he built that shit. You know what I mean? That's my take on it. But he says that, and he gets his head cut off.
Just by Daemon just takes his head straight off.
Yeah, and the Viserys entering the throne room has really turned into, I think, a meme in terms of, like, the pop culture. Like, people love that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like this guy can't even walk, and he's hobbling in there to defend Rhaenyra.
And that was kind of a redemption moment for Viserys, because, like, throughout season 1, his power just kept diminishing.
He sat on his hands a lot.
Yeah.
And not out of malice, but often made the wrong move out of, I think, appeasing everybody.
Yeah.
He wanted to be liked.
Trying to keep the family together.
Yeah, and, good guy, but...
Mm-hmm. And then this episode ends with that dinner scene, right? Where
that's right.
They're having a family dinner.
Oh my god, the Strong Boys.
And they're having a family dinner. Everyone seems to be getting along. Like, Alicent and Rhaenyra are vibing.
Yeah.
And, the boys, it's always the boys that end up getting in the fights, but
someone
there's
gets
like
a scraped
hog.
knee, yeah.
There's a hog brought out, and I guess, who is it, Joffrey or one of the Strong Boys?
I think it's Luke.
Luke, yeah, because he got his. Luke is like looking at the hog because the hog's eye was like poked out, and then he looks up at Aemond and it's like smirking. Which, if you're Luke and you're so much smaller than Aemond at this point, and Aemond has Vhagar, like, you probably shouldn't.
This is after all of these nice toasts.
Yeah.
There's a montage of everyone laughing. Otto cracks a smile, and then he just punches the table, stands up with his glass, and is like, my nephew, I forget that they're his nephews, which is crazy, but he goes, wise and handsome and strong. Come, let's raise our... And then there's a big scuffle, and Daemon and Aemond have a quick, just face-to-face. No scuffle between those two, but you can tell that there's, like, you want to dance?
Oh, yeah.
And Rhaenyra says to Alicent, like, sorry, it ended that way, but I'm going to take off. And then she says something, like, significant, like, kind of symbolic, which is like, well, I'll return on Dragonback. And it's like, yeah, you just might. You just might have to. Episode 9, The Green Council. Probably my least favorite episode of the season.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like it that much. But it was good. It was like, I didn't hate it. Like, I every season, like, technically there has to be a least. If there's a favorite, there's a least.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a weak episode by any means. But this is when Viserys is dead. Last episode, Alicent gaslit herself into thinking he was talking about Aegon when he was talking about Aegon, just the wrong Aegon.
Yes.
He was talking about Aegon the Conqueror's dream, and he's like just talked to Rhaenyra about it, and he's dying, and his whole mind was about Rhaenyra the last 2 days, so he thinks he's probably talking to her like, yo, don't forget, remember that convo we had? Mm-hmm. But Alicent takes the wrong way. Viserys is dead. They're usurping the throne. The Greens are going to take it. Aegon doesn't care. He's drunk. He's hiding.
And the Blacks don't even know that Viserys is dead at this point.
They don't know.
They just have the body rotting, and they're trying to find Aegon.
In fairness, that body's been rotting for like 15 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Aegon's like out doing his own thing, and then eventually they smack some sense into him. Like, if you don't take the throne, like, you're gonna die. You and your siblings are gonna die.
And then he gets so juiced up for it, though. Eric and Arik are chasing after him, and like one of them hates what Aegon stands for. The other one's like, he's my king. And then they do a whole throne room thing in front of the eyes of the small folk. It's legitimacy. Is it at the set, or it's in the dragon pit, isn't it? It's in like the dragon mount, I think.
It's in the dragon pit.
And he's he's got the conqueror's sword. He's got the conqueror's name. He's got the conqueror's crown. Mm-hmm. And then the beast beneath the boards, Meleys, breaks through the floor. Mm-hmm. She could burn him alive, but as Rhaenys herself says, it's sort of not her fight to start. She takes off to tell the Blacks.
The underrated part about that scene where Meleys and Rhaenys break through the floor is just the amount of small folk that die when she like flies away.
Nobody cares.
It's just like,
nobody cares.
This murder is probably thousands.
Yeah, but it's like And honestly, though, I would argue that less people now know that he's king. So it's like, is it legit? But yeah, no, Rainey's just killed no one of importance, but still murdered thousands. Impressive.
And then the finale.
Strong episode, the Black Queen. Rhaenyra goes into labor when Rhaenys finally gets there and tells them, like, by the way, your throne got usurped. Viserys is dead. Daemon thinks it's treachery. All hell breaks loose. Rhaenyra's baby dies in the labors, and it's all war planning, making sure there's allegiances, making sure no one's going to backstab, threatening. It's everything. And
then they start sending envoys to try to recruit different families to different sides.
Yep, and the one Cargill shows up with Viserys' crown. Yep. They name her. Envoys go. We got to go to Winterfell. We got to go to the Eyrie, and we got to go to
Storm's End.
Short flight.
And Luke,
Little Luke.
on what's it? Tyraxes is his.
Yeah.
On Tyraxes goes and flies to Storm's End, and who's there waiting for him?
Vagar and Aemond. And
the Baratheon Lord is just like the most wishy-washy, gross human being.
He's not Robert Baratheon. He's like if Robert Baratheon and Walder Frey had a son.
Yeah.
He's got the Baratheon look, but he's got the Frey mentality of like, what's in it for me? Mm-hmm. You know, there's no nobility there.
And he tries to marry off his daughters. I guess Aemond
was not betrothed, right?
Right, yeah.
So he took one. Mm-hmm. Luke was, and he was a noble boy and said, it's not, I'm not here. And then Aemond is like, if you're not a craven, you'll put out your eye because you took mine. Mm-hmm. Long story short, then they get in a bit of a fender bender on their dragons.
So the Baratheon Lord was like, you can't spill blood in my house. Like, you gotta go. And
he's like, listen, take this outside.
Yeah, and Luke tries to fly away on Tyraxes, and, of course, Vagar being the most large dragon on, the planet at this point in time.
He's fucking with him. He's, like, doing drive-bys, like, joking around, kind of, like, flying past him, winging him. But then Tyraxes blows fire on Vagar, and Vagar goes into business for himself. Mm-hmm. And even Aemond is like, no.
Yeah.
And it bites Luke in half, and the dragon. And they're dead.
And little Luke's gone.
In the arms of... Yeah. R.I.P. Luke, and that to me is the first casualty of the war.
And then this episode famously ends on
great scene.
Rhaenyra finding out about Luke expiring from Daemon and just turning around and making the fiercest look.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's hot. It moved. And Daemon actually, it was Matt Smith's idea, who plays Daemon. He said, what if we did it this way?
Oh, really?
And, yeah, Conda loved it. He's like, let's do it that way.
Love that.
They were going to end it similarly, but the way Matt Smith said, he's like, what if Daemon just comes in and tells her, and then you do the slow zoom?
Yeah.
But that was season 1. And we really could just do this for all of season 2. We just finish all 10 and we wrap it 30 minutes. We just do a quick overview. We're done.
Yeah, just one episode.
Just one episode like this, super cash. No, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. But thank you guys. Chris, you got anything else you want to add about season 1?
No, we've got the look ahead for season 2 coming up next. So make sure you tune into that.
On the spot, out of 10 for season 1. I'll go 8. I liked it.
On the spot, I would go 7.5.
All right.
Yeah, I did love it, but cool. Season 2, I think we'll have more stuff for us. Yeah.
Follow us on all socials,
and YouTube now too. So
YouTube, yes.
So yeah. So thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week with the look ahead for season 2. For now, enjoy, and see you guys next week.
See you guys, and Allison, hit me up. We can have some strong boys of our own.
Check out the head, switch, shoes on swoosh. Hitters don't miss. Already just added a ton of y'all to my list. Bitch, death wish. Not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots.